So this was a R.J. brownstone that had some previous repairs, that had probably used Portland cement and some type of caulking adhesive that was still very stuck. So we didn't take it apart and redo it. We just left it alone. So eventually that'll fail and that can be redone. But there was an old ferrous metal pin between the two that we removed and then reset the monument level. They were perfectly clean until the rain yesterday, so we got a little bit of splash from dirt. But most of the microbes are dead on it, and the stones are back white and just as beautiful, or just about as beautiful as the day they were made. When you look at the gray marble, which is really pretty, the browns here had 4 identical stones, and as Maggie was saying, the detail with the heaven gates and the dove in the middle really stands out once the monument's cleaned and level. You'll see with this third one down here, we had the same issue where the previous repair had adhered the top to it to the point where it would be dangerous to take it apart. So the top's got a little tilt where the mortar's thicker on one side than the other, but eventually that'll fail and can be put back together.
Oh, look at this one.
And you can see it had a previous repair to it as well, but it's still secure at the moment. And this hairline crack here that went back together very well. The greatest thing is they didn't lay it flat in concrete and concrete it in the ground. So eventually that'll come off and can be redone again. So, but it looks really nice, gorgeous monument.
Do you think this is an unusual one?
This is kind of neat with the rope.
Baby?
It's kind of big for a child.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. And often they'll have like a little lamb or something like that. And here we've got the rose.
You notice that there's 2 types of lettering. This is like a double outline, and this is just a normal V-cut.
With everything cleaned up, you can really appreciate all of the beautiful detail work here.
And considering that was all hand chiseled, that's pretty gorgeous. But this was hand carved here, and something really cool I was showing Candace, you can even see the core marks either where it came out of the ground or where the stone carver decided to kind of leave this kind of rough on one side and finished on the other. And in order to break these off, they would use a hand chisel that was like a drill, and they'd go down until it broke off. But the detail on that in granite is truly amazing. We used marble and limestone because it was softer material, it was easy to chisel and carve. Well, when they started using granite around the turn of the century, it's a harder material, so our steels had to be harder, but still that's very talented there. And to be able to see that from this thick and then carve back in and make that is truly amazing. Because today we blast into it, we don't do a lot of stuff in it. This is a gorgeous, humongous tablet, and you can see at one point it was broken in 2 places, probably vandalism, but it was put back together fairly well, and it's going to hold for a little while longer. But when leveling these, we found that all of them had bases, but they were all buried.
Okay.
So once we got them out of the ground, we were actually able to show off the base that was...
and when you say out of the ground, did
they
you
were
dig the ground
they were
away from
completely
it?
sunken, and we picked it all up out of the ground.
You had your...
Once we began to dig, we saw that it had a base, and when we picked it all up, we brought the base up a little higher than it was. And in some cases, they would say that the base was intended to be subsurface, but what you'll find is where you have tool marks and actual carving, the stonemason actually intended that to be shown.
Yes.
This one's a little deteriorated, so it's kind of hard to see. You can see a few lines in it, but a lot of it's in pretty bad condition.
And now, is this what you were telling me a minute ago about the stonemason?
Yeah, there you go.
His name?
I hadn't even seen that. J. Reynolds, maybe NC, maybe North Carolina.
So they maybe weren't done here in the area. They were carved elsewhere and shipped here.
It is definitely possible, and probably arrived by train. Tombstones were sold in those days by traveling salesmen, and well, I know there was stonemason in Shreveport. There was one in Dallas. There's quite a few places around the state where there's some, but this could have been ordered when the family was somewhere else and just had it shipped down here. But pretty neat stuff. Something kind of interesting to me is how everything was kind of lined up. You'll notice over here there's almost, I don't know, 7 or 8. They're in one row, east and west. But there's lots of young babies and kind of some neat looking markers. You know, the lambs are not in the greatest of shape, but you know, that one's missing an ear and a nose. Another one's missing both or one ear. But very, very fine marble pieces that, you know, broke off easily. This is one of the trees that the Parks Department came out and took it out so it won't have a problem growing into the fence or growing into the monument. And then another tree back here that I guess the forester said it was okay to remove, and the Parks Department came out and removed that. So that's good to have them away from everything. There's one more that could possibly be taken out.
Do you ever recommend trees being planted out here in a site like this?
I think trees in cemeteries are wonderful as long as they're not going to grow into the historic fencing or knock over the historic monuments, even the modern monuments. So in a planned fashion, I think they're great. Here's a small one where we rebuilt the corner of the base to kind of fill in the cracks of where everything was broken apart and to color match as best we can. We didn't go as far as to putting the lines and all the detailing back in. There's kind of a point where is it restoration or is it conservation, and this leans more to the conservation side of we're just protecting what's left over to make it last a little longer. There's one over here that I didn't know if we'd be able to do anything with that turned out really well. Except for the dirt flying all over it. So this marker's missing a piece, but we're able to glue it and mortar it back together to get a pretty good look. It's awesome. Matching the mortar's always a challenge, especially when you have 3 different colors on the stone itself, because some pieces were buried, some pieces were exposed, so you get different levels of soiling over time. But it turned out pretty good. And here's another one that the base was completely missing, so we built a base to go in it. And it's just concrete. You could build one out of limestone or something else, but this will hopefully hold up for 50 years or so.
Well, you all have just done an incredible job. It must be pleasing, all of the family, both buried here and their descendants, even if they're not aware of it, somehow the energy in the universe knows.
There is a good feeling about fixing something up like this.
That was what I wanted to ask you and Daniel when you were finished. How do you feel about all this at the completion?
When doing a cemetery like this, the job that we do is very rewarding, and it's rewarding in more ways than just paying your bills. It's, I don't know, there is something neat about taking something old and fixing it up and to make it last longer. I think there's a lot to be said for it.
Well, I've definitely picked up the respect that you have for your family history, and it carries over here. You can tell that what you would do for your family, you're trying to do for others.
And I have an old family cemetery that I'm going to try to get done.
I always feel sad when I see all of these and read all the markers, but being out here today on this beautiful day, I feel very peaceful and like a great service has been done here. So thank you, Rusty.
Well, thank you, Maggie.
It's been a great pleasure working with you, and I admire what you've chosen your life work to be.
I am very pleased that we'll be able to do it, and thank you so much for having us help you guys.
We'll have to find a way to make more of
do
this
another
happen
project
in other locations.